Hey everyone, it's CJ. Welcome to the Rundown. I'm really excited about tonight's show. Tonight we have JL Rothstein, a best-selling published author of the fantasy genre supernatural Heaven Sent book series. Jen's going to tell us a little bit about her 3-book series and her upcoming 4th novel in the fall. So stay tuned.
Hi, this is Quincy Briscoe. To all my fans, don't drink and drive.
Sitting with us tonight is JL Rothstein, published author, writes in the fantasy genre. She has a deep affinity for the supernatural. Welcome to the show, Jen.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. You've been keeping busy since the last time I saw you from Wicked Con about a year ago?
Absolutely, working on book 4, so it's been a very busy few months here.
Aha. Yeah, you got. From what I understand, you couldn't let Kelly O'Mara go, huh?
No, I really felt like she wasn't done in that last book. I felt like there was more left to have her go through, and so she's going to pay a little visit to the Death Realm in book 4, and we'll see all the shenanigans that go on there.
I love it. I love it. For those that are listening out there, Jen is the best-selling author of the Heaven Sent series. First book was Atonement. Second one was Hellbound, my favorite, and the third one was and I messed up my notes here, Jen. I'm sorry. What was
no worries. Vengeance.
Vengeance. That's right. So I really liked the second one. Really liked the second one. It was like a nonstop action movie for me. Tell us a little bit about it was a trilogy before, but from what I understand, the 4th book is a standalone. So can we still call the Heaven Sent series a trilogy or no longer?
I think that how that works is that you have a trilogy, and then if you decide that you're going to write with another character, they sort of say it's the Heaven Sent universe, right? You're writing a standalone book within that universe, and that would apply. It will be, you won't have to have read the trilogy, but I think you'll get a lot more out of it if you have.
No, absolutely. I mean, you drew all your inspiration from pretty much what me and TC had gone through most of our young adult childhood and early adulthood. And strong Catholic family, 1 of 12 from what I understand.
Yeah, not quite that big. I am 1 of 4.
Okay,
but I have 9 nieces and nephews, and that's who the main characters are named after in the books.
Now, are you originally from Charlestown?
I am originally from Charlestown.
Because I'm originally from Charlestown.
Yes, we discovered that when you came to Wicked Con, that we were fellow townies.
Fellow townies.
And obviously I haven't been there in quite a bit, but I still do have family and friends who live in the town. Yeah,
you draw a lot of influence from that. From what I gathered in reading your books was, do you remember the 98 supernatural thriller movie Fallen with Denzel Washington?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm reading your trilogy at the time of trilogy, and I'm thinking, wow, this is movie quality. I mean, really in-depth stuff. Tell us how you came upon this to be the central idea for your books.
Yeah, I mean, I think 12 years of Catholic school will certainly ingrain the concept of heaven and hell in your head. Although I will say they didn't talk too much about Satan or hell specifically, other than to say, hey, if you're not very good, then you don't get to go be with the big guy. You go someplace else, which is not pleasant. It wasn't until I was an adult that really I started to read up on these concepts of heaven and hell, and then reading the book of Revelation in the Bible, the last book in the Bible, where that's laid out pretty clear what happens if you go to hell.
Right.
And so that certainly lends itself to a lot of movies like The Exorcist, the television show Supernatural, There's a lot of I think a lot of people got inspiration from that book about what happens when we die. And so centrally, that is conceptually the concept. But then I just wrapped within it, well, what would happen if the people down here fighting for us were a family, right? Brothers and sisters, right? Because we know that there's a natural dynamic that happens in tight, close-knit Irish Catholic families.
Right.
Is right. So I thought, well, that would even add to the drama, right? It's like yes, they have each other and that's great, but then there's also infighting, there's competition, there's disagreement, and so it just kind of added an extra layer of drama to this idea that we have angels and demons down here fighting, and that, oh yeah, by the way, we have to also deal with our older or younger brothers and sisters while doing it.
No, absolutely. I mean, I can tell you're a fan of pop culture, film, books. I know that you collect comics. We discussed that at Wicked Comic Con, and yeah, I mean, I'm reading, especially Vengeance, and it's just this energetic, entertaining, vampire apocalyptic type of story. And where did you develop the ideas for your characters, their supernatural abilities, their Amaras?
Yeah, I think especially if you're writing female characters as in the lead and they're gonna sort of hold their own and be able to fight against demons, it's extra fun if they can have a little bit of supernatural type, not magic, but supernatural type powers. And so I sort of thought, well, what would be really helpful if I were fighting a monster?
There's not enough heroines in books and in movies that are the central characters. A lot of them are male.
Yeah,
I like
exactly.
that.
Yeah, or loners. I like a lot of the movies that have been done about, Constantine, for instance, with Keanu Reeves. But he's alone. He picks up a few people along the way that are minor characters, but essentially he's alone, and most of them are male. So this idea that you would have them be female and that collectively they're a group, I think that makes them a little bit more formidable. Plus, then you get to do really big fight scenes, like Marvel-esque fight scenes in the book, which is just fun.
Now, you have, like CJ was saying, all the heroines in your book that are the heroes. Was that inspired by the Friday the 13th movies by any chance? Because they always had the final Friday girl.
It was not, although I have to tell you, Nightmare on Elm Street was one of the first scary movies that I ever watched, and I grew up on Elm Street. And after I watched it, okay, and we must have been 13, 14 years old at the time, my girlfriends dropped me off at the top of the street because they refused to go down the street. So I had to run down the street to my house by myself on Elm Street the first night I actually saw that movie. So we were big fans growing up of scary movies. I don't watch too many of them now. But yeah, I think you find inspiration any way you want to look for it, right? Like you can draw correlating lines between something that you find in fiction or something that you find in the movies to any book that you pick up, because I think that it's natural that, over decades of watching television and reading different books, fantasy, supernatural, like I said, fan of the television show Supernatural, but also the television show Charmed, where those were three sisters, that you kind of pull in little layers that you relate to into your story.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Hellbound was crazy. I mean, it was intense. You get really in depth with some of these battles. It must have taken you months to write these battles.
Well, it's funny because the first time that I wrote a fight scene in the first book, I showed it. So my husband is my first level editor, right? So he reads everything that I write, and he writes commentary, and he's actually very good, very restrained. It's a very good critical feedback. But he said, Jen, this fight scene, it's like a paragraph. Like, it's not a fight scene. It's not anything. Like, you have to really get in there. And I think that that's, and I hate to typecast anyone, but I think that that's problematic of a lot of female writers, is that fight scene might be massive in their head, but it doesn't always necessarily make it onto the page. So I had to really work at learning how to write these fight scenes. And I have several chapters in the books that is a fight scene where Kelly and Genevieve are in the house and they're fighting two vampires. They basically destroyed the house.
Right.
And that the inspiration for that is the hallway scene in Daredevil. You know, the big massive hallway scene that they do in one take in Daredevil?
Netflix series, right?
Yes, which is the original Netflix series. Now they're doing it again. They have like the second layer that he's live now, but that one that was from several years ago.
Yeah.
There's a hallway fight scene in there that's hand-to-hand combat that I just thought was the best, one of the best fight scenes I've ever seen on TV. And so that was my inspiration for writing that scene where Kelly and Genevieve fight those vampires and basically bring the house down.
It's awesome.
I just thought that was fun.
And the reason I like the second book the best is because, I mean, it's like this with a lot of the things in my life. One of my favorite movie series of all time is the original Star Wars trilogy. For me, The Empire Strikes Back, because it left on a cliffhanger. Yes. And your second book, I'm telling you, I'm glad because, like I said, I purchased your series in hand at Comic-Con, all 3 books together. Had I read the second book, I would have been pissed to have waited for the third one. I would have been chomping at the bit to find out what happens.
There was a lot of people that contacted me after that, and it was, you know, we obviously don't want spoils and we don't want to give it away.
Right, and that's fine.
The end of that being that particular cliffhanger, I remember talking to my husband about it. We were going back and forth about what was going to happen in that scene, and at the end of it, I said to him, "You're really devious, but that is." Like when we finally got it down, I was like, people are gonna be pissed.
Yeah. Oh, I was one of them. I was like, well, I can breathe actually, because I do have the third book here in hand, and I'll just dive into that next. But yeah, I would have been out of my mind to wait.
Yeah, there were a lot of people that contacted us, but I think that's a sign of a good moment, right? It means you weren't expecting that. Maybe if you expected a cliffhanger, you weren't necessarily expecting that, and I think that's what you want, right? That's the reaction that you're looking for.
And you got it
when you write it.
Now, getting back to the writing process, we had on a few authors that we've talked to before, and they like to listen to movie soundtracks in the background when they're writing. Do you do that as well? Do you have any horror movie soundtracks playing when you're writing up your masterpieces?
It's a good question. I think I've talked to several different authors too, and it's always a mixed bag, right? Where I can't listen to anything that has words, otherwise I'll start typing the words. So whatever it is would have to be instrumental. But I have gotten a lot of inspiration from like the YouTube channels that have like the epic music, where really you're listening to something that sounds like it's a battle scene. It sounds like it's music that from a movie that had a battle scene. And so I listened a lot to that during the battle scenes, but not necessarily just regular writing throughout the book. But yeah, it can be very helpful for, you know, battle scenes are like anything else, right? There's an ebb and flow. You sort of have that beginning clash, then you're going at it. Then you usually have to have some sort of respite in the middle. A lot of people don't realize that when you're thinking about it, but next time you watch a movie, you'll sort of notice that there'll be like a moment in the middle where it sort of slows down and maybe zooms you in to one or two particular things that are happening, almost like you're going in micro level, and then you come back out and you have the bigger like crescendo at the end. And music is really helpful for that, because that's sort of what a song will do, right? It starts out really strong, and then you have sort of that middle period, and then you come in at the end. And so that can be really helpful for you to write it in that same way, because that's the way you sort of want to portray it in the book.
Well, in the future, if you want to write another battle sequence, I have the perfect soundtrack for you to listen to.
Yeah?
And that would be the soundtrack from Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah.
Really?
It is very operatic. It's not like what you think, Arnold Schwarzenegger, blah, blah, blah. No. This movie...
Who was the composer?
Oh, Basil... it escapes me right now. He's no longer with us. But the movie, because Arnold Schwarzenegger couldn't really speak that good of English when he first came here, the music is the character, kind of like the music was the character in Jaws. And when they're having these major battles, the music is very, very operatic, and it just enhances the film a gazillion %.
Yeah, it does.
I totally believe that. I feel like if you've ever seen any sort of behind the scenes look of when they're making a movie, like I remember watching the one for Halloween, where he talked about how he presented how Michael Myers is like off to the side looking at Jamie Lee Curtis as she walks by, and everyone's like, this isn't really scary. In fact, it's kind of creepy and kind of weird.
John Carpenter.
And then John Carpenter plays the piano piece, and it changed everything. And everyone's like, oh my God, creepy factor, creepy factor.
Oh, yeah.
Scary, scary, scary. And so music can really change a scene, and it can definitely bring inspiration. I know for my books, I did an instrumental band called Two Steps from Hell, and they have a lot more darkness to their music. You know, there's no words, it's instrumental, but that one was one of my favorites to listen to through the series.
Who did your covers, Jen? Your covers are great.
Yeah, so it's an illustrator by the name of Jeff Brown, who is out on Instagram, and he's not too much on X, but he's got a pretty heavy presence on Instagram. And I was very fortunate, you know, when I was looking, my first book came out just during COVID, right? Like it was finished before COVID came out. And then we had already picked the publishing date. And then, of course, COVID happened and we just didn't change it. We just let it go and let it come out. And so I was very fortunate to be able to get him for the second and third book, because by the time I got to the third book, he was gaining in popularity. And now for the fourth book, I'm not sure I can actually get him.
Oh, wow.
You know, he's become so popular and is winning awards. And yeah, he's pretty amazing. He doesn't do too many, you know, like supernatural side, but he does sci-fi. He does a lot of science fiction covers that are really beautiful, but he's great.
Yeah, they're phenomenal. I mean, I was immediately drawn to the cover art on your books. I was like, wow. And well, you gotta get him back for this next Death Realm standalone.
Yeah.
What's the title of this next book? Can you tell us?
I have a working title, but I'm not going to put it out there yet, only because I don't know that it's 100% set.
Okay.
But soon, so pretty soon, because I'll have to put it. I'll have to make it 100% once I deal with somebody on artwork. But for right now, still working to see if something can be worked out with Jeff. But I think he's just too busy for me to be able to get him.
You have it done already? You're just putting the final touches on it now?
No, not the book, but like my idea for the artwork. Like I'm not an artist, but I always sketch out like what I want to see and like where I want to see like the lettering and colors. I always have an idea of like, okay, this will be the kind of the overarching color. So that's what I'm going back with some artists on. So once that's set, then we'll be revealing the name, and then obviously there'll be a cover reveal for the artwork. But I haven't finalized with an artist yet.
All right. Can you give us an elevator pitch, a short synopsis of what this next book's about? Is it focused on Kelly?
Yeah, so it is Kelly. It's just Kelly O'Mara. She's going to be the only one that's in there. And essentially the book opens with her, you know, fighting and killing a monster from hell. And a Reaper shows up and tells her Death is missing and that she's the only one that can help him find Death. And so she agrees to go with him and doesn't realize right away that she's going to be leaving the Death Realm, leaving the Earth Realm, and not be able to get a hold of her siblings per se when she wants them. And so she really is kind of on her own. And it's one of these things where it's like her and the Reaper are going to have to go through and find Death without the help of all her siblings. And I think that's a good thing, right? I think there's a lot for Kelly to work out.
There's so much in your books. They're so entertaining and so in depth. I almost want to say that a film would cheat you, and these would be better suited for a series. So on a streaming service, they're amazing. You could stretch these into 3 seasons already.
Yeah, I do think, you know, it's always nice when someone's book gets to be a series as opposed to a movie for that exact reason, right? Because you can really go and focus on a particular character and have it go across multiple episodes, as opposed to in a movie, they almost always are cutting something out, right? Something's not going to make it into the movie, whereas a television show, you do get to spread that out. But I mean, that would just be an amazing experience to have.
I think it would be excellent.
Anything that you write and turn into a television series.
But there's nothing like it on TV. There's nothing like it on page, for that matter. Your books are very unique. I mean, they're not cut and paste. They don't fall in line with what people think they're getting into with a supernatural story until they start reading, and they're like, wow, this is This is amazing. And for me, I had a deep emotional connection with it growing up Catholic, understanding a lot of the backlore, understanding what the main characters were going through or thinking. So, and then the battle scenes, forget it, I'm sold, because as TC will tell you, I love horror movies, I love action movies, I love all that stuff. So I couldn't put any of them down, loved all three of them. Can't wait to read your next one.
Oh, thank you so much. I think it's a very unique situation I find myself in, because there's, a lot of action and a lot of battles. You have these three female characters, but when you look at the book at first, a lot of people, and maybe this is more women, are just assuming it's a paranormal romance. And it's been very tough for me to sort of explain that, if you read paranormal romance, I'm not necessarily saying you won't like it. You very much could, but I don't want the expectation when people pick it up to be like that, but the covers are reminiscent of that. At least that's sort of the feedback that we get a lot of times when people pick it up and say, "Oh, it's not a romance," and it's like, no, this truly is an action.
I didn't get that impression at all.
Supernatural type thing, and so it's always great to get different people's feedback. And I was really pleasantly surprised we had as many men reading the series as there are, because it isn't a romance novel at all. It isn't anything about that. This really is just heaven and hell fighting, and who's going to come out on top at the end here. And
I was one of them, and I found you online. I was thumbing through several sites looking for interesting new books to read. I came across Atonement, and then I saw that you were going to be at Wicked Comic Con, and I'm so glad I went down and met you, and I love your work.
Yeah, no, it was great to meet in person. It's always nice to meet people in person. I'm going to be back at Wicked Con in May, which is pretty exciting.
Tell us about that.
The show. Yeah, so I didn't realize, but Wicked Con, instead of doing it in one large weekend the way Fan Expo does, they have a tendency to split theirs. So they do one in the fall and one in the spring. And the one in the fall is on the Sunday, and the one in the spring is on Saturday. So it's going to be the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend. It's going to be May 23rd at the Westin Seaport Hotel in Boston, in their larger ballroom. So from everything I've heard, it's twice the size as the one that was in the fall. So it'll be a little bit bigger. Saturday is tended to be a busier day of the weekend. And of course, they make it free, right? So it's free admission. They try to draw in as many people as they can possibly draw in. So, so we're going to be at the show, selling the books and chatting with people. Unfortunately, I will not have the fourth book by then, but we'll still be able to talk to people about it and get people excited that it's coming in late summer, early fall.
Well, I'll be there. And we can probably discuss more. From what I understand, you're a wine connoisseur, aren't you?
Oh, yes. I'm a big wino. I'm a big wino.
We can continue a conversation about that, too, because I'm going to head down to Wicked Comic Con. It's 2 days after my birthday.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah. So I'd love to come down, see you again, and all that. So, Jen, tell everyone out there that's listening tonight where they can find you on social media, where they can find and buy your works right now.
Yeah, they can. They can go to my website, jlrothstein.com, which has a connection. It usually keeps up with everything I'm doing, everywhere I'm going, all the upcoming shows, and it has all my social media out there. But I'm most apt to be out on X or Instagram, which is JL Rothstein 1. And my books are available on Amazon and also on Barnes & Noble.
Awesome. And I'm telling everyone, get them, read them, enjoy them. If you've been listening tonight, we've been talking to JL Rothstein, the highly celebrated published author of the fantasy genre Heaven Sent series. She's got a fourth book coming pretty soon. And thanks for coming out, Jen. We appreciate you coming on the show tonight with us.
Oh, absolutely. This was so much fun and so nice to meet you, TC. Thanks for having me on. And obviously, CJ, I hope to see you just in a couple weeks at WickedCon.
We'll see you there.
I'll be there as well.
Oh, awesome.
I'll bring him in. And I'll force him into the car if I have to.
He'll love it. He'll love it. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun walking around there. CJ will tell you all about it.
Oh, yeah. Thanks again, Jen.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Hello, I'm Abigail Harwood, the new executive producer of After Hours with TC Restani, and I want you to be on our award-winning talk show. Whether it's a Zoom cast or a podcast, or right here in our studio. Follow the information that's on the screen. I can't wait to see you on After Hours with TC Restani.
Hey, what a great time. I had a great time tonight. I want to thank Jen for coming on the show. Amazing interview. We'll see you next time on The Rundown.